Studies show that nearly 7 out of 10 relationships end because of avoidable issues. Not cheating, not betrayal, just miscommunication, emotional overreactions, and unmet expectations. Think about that. Most couples don't fall out of love. They fall into bad habits. Small arguments that never get resolved, assumptions that turn into resentment, emotional wounds that get buried instead of healed. And here's where it gets interesting. The ancient philosophy of Stoicism, yes, the one written centuries ago by men in robes, might hold the exact tools we need to save modern relationships. So if you're tired of fighting the same battles, or watching the connection slowly fade, this might be the perspective shift you've been waiting for. At first glance, Stoicism and love might feel like opposites. Stoicism is calm, detached, logical. Love is emotional, chaotic, passionate. But real love, lasting love, isn't just about passion. It's about patience. It's about choosing understanding over ego and peace over pride. And that's where Stoicism shines. At its core, Stoicism teaches us how to respond with clarity instead of emotion. It shows us how to stay grounded when things feel unstable. In relationships, that means fewer blow-ups, more empathy, and a deeper, steadier kind of connection. This video isn't about fixing your partner. It's about strengthening yourself so that your relationship has a chance to grow from a solid foundation. Let's get into it. Most relationships don't fall apart in a dramatic blaze. They don't end because of one explosive moment, one unforgivable betrayal, or one massive failure. No, the truth is much quieter and much more painful. Most relationships die in silence, in little moments, in the words left unsaid, in the feelings we bury because it's not the right time to talk, in the eye rolls during arguments, the cold shoulders after conflict, and the slow erosion of emotional safety. Here's what really happens. Miscommunication becomes the norm. We assume instead of ask. We expect our partner to just know what we're feeling or needing, and when they don't, we punish them emotionally. Over time, we stop truly talking and just start managing each other's moods. Emotions take the wheel. One sharp comment triggers a deep wound from childhood or past relationships. A forgotten text spirals into a full-blown narrative about being unimportant, unloved, or not enough. We react without thinking. We lash out, then regret. But the damage is done. Unrealistic expectations take root. We want our partner to make us happy, fix us, complete us. But that's not their job. It never was. When they fall short of the impossible, we call them distant, cold, or emotionally unavailable. And yet, we never told them what we actually needed, clearly and without blame. Resentment builds. We keep score. We replay old fights like highlight reels. Instead of seeing our partner as a teammate, we start viewing them as the opponent. And here's the tragic part. In most cases, both people still care deeply. They still want it to work. But they're stuck in a cycle, reacting to each other's reactions, misunderstanding each other's needs, and letting pride speak louder than love. This is where relationships quietly begin to wither. Not because the love is gone, but because it's being suffocated by patterns that go unchallenged. And it's not that we're bad people. It's that no one ever taught us how to handle emotions with wisdom. How to listen without defensiveness, how to speak without blame, how to pause, reflect, and choose response over reaction. That's where Stoicism enters, not as a cold, distant set of rules, but as a compass, one that helps us see clearly when emotions are clouding our judgment, one that gives us practical tools to shift from chaos to calm, from conflict to connection. Because love isn't enough if we don't know how to protect it. And the way we protect it is by learning to master ourselves. So how do we break these destructive patterns? How do we shift from reacting to reflecting, from drifting apart to growing together? The answer isn't in a grand romantic gesture or a perfect communication technique. It's in something much quieter, much older, and much more powerful. Stoic wisdom. Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about not letting emotions rule you. It's not about detachment. It's about groundedness. And in relationships, it offers some of the most profound tools for navigating conflict, building trust, and sustaining real intimacy. Let's walk through the key Stoic principles and how each one applies directly to the challenges you face in love. 1. Control what you can control. One of the central teachings of Stoicism is this: some things are up to us and some things are not. Epictetus. In a relationship, this principle is everything. You cannot control your partner's mood, triggers, or how they choose to speak to you, but you can control how you respond. You can control your tone, your patience, your ability to stay present instead of defensive. Imagine this. Your partner comes home in a bad mood. They're snappy, distant, irritated. The emotional instinct is to take it personally. What did I do wrong? Or to fire back with more negativity. But a Stoic pauses and asks, is this about me? Or are they simply having a moment I don't fully understand? Instead of reacting, you hold space. You give them room to decompress. You stay grounded in your own calm. That shift alone can prevent countless arguments. Because when you master yourself, you stop pouring fuel on emotional fires. 2. Practice empathy and humility. The Stoics weren't emotionally numb. In fact, they were deeply aware of human nature, our flaws, our fears, our need for connection. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself, what fault of mine most nearly resembles theirs?" This is radical compassion, radical humility, and it's essential for lasting love. Too often in relationships, we go into attack mode when we feel hurt. You always do this. You never listen. You don't care. But Stoicism invites a different path. It asks us to pause and ask, what might they be feeling right now? How would I want to be treated if I made the same mistake? Is this a moment for judgment or understanding? Empathy doesn't mean letting yourself be walked on. It means seeing your partner not as the enemy, but as a flawed human, just like you, doing their best, even when it doesn't look like it. And when both partners start doing that, walls come down, real conversations begin. Resentment turns into repair. 3. Maintain composure, especially during conflict. Seneca said, "A quarrel is quickly settled when deserted by one party. There is no battle unless there be two." Most of the damage in relationships doesn't come from the problem, but from how we react to it. And when both people are emotionally activated, logic disappears, compassion disappears. The nervous system takes over and the argument becomes about winning, not understanding. This is where Stoicism becomes a superpower. It teaches us to pause before we speak, to recognize the difference between feeling and acting. To ask, is what I'm about to say helpful? Or is it just a reaction to my own ego? Composure is not silence. It's not shutting down. It's staying connected to your values even in the heat of the moment. Imagine a conflict where instead of yelling, you say, "I'm feeling triggered right now. I want to work through this, but I need a moment to calm down so I can do it clearly." That's emotional maturity. That's what creates safety in a relationship, and that safety is what allows real healing to happen. 4. Reflect daily, not just when things go wrong. The Stoics believed in daily reflection, journaling, meditating, reviewing the day with honesty and humility, not to judge themselves, but to grow from their experiences. In relationships, this is crucial. At the end of each day, ask yourself, did I show up today with patience and presence? Where did I let my ego get in the way? What could I do differently tomorrow? This kind of reflection helps us course correct before things spiral. It keeps us humble. It reminds us that love is not a destination. It's a daily practice. And when both people commit to that kind of self-honesty, the relationship becomes a place of growth, not just comfort. 5. Choose your values over your emotions. Love fueled by momentary emotion burns hot and dies fast. But love guided by principle? That's sustainable. That's steady. That's stoic. Ask yourself, what kind of partner do I want to be, regardless of how I feel today? What values do I want to bring to this relationship? Patience, honesty, forgiveness. Am I reacting from pain, or showing up in alignment with the kind of love I want to receive? Stoicism doesn't take the heart out of relationships. It gives your heart structure, a framework for making love resilient, because feelings fluctuate. But values? Values anchor you. In the end, Stoicism teaches us that we can't control how love starts, but we can control how we sustain it, with emotional discipline, with self-awareness, with compassion, not just for our partners but for ourselves. These aren't abstract ideas. They're practical tools, and when practiced daily, they transform relationships from reactive to intentional, from fragile to resilient. Let me share a real story. A friend of mine, let's call him Alex, was on the brink of ending a 6-year relationship. The same arguments, the same frustrations. It wasn't explosive, but it was draining. One night, after another silent standoff, he picked up a journal and wrote down a Stoic question. What part of this is within my control? The next day, something shifted. Instead of snapping back during a tense moment, he stayed quiet and just asked, "What do you need from me right now?" Instead of replaying old arguments, he started listening, not just to respond, but to really understand. He wasn't perfect, but he was present. And slowly, the energy between them changed. She softened. He grew. And together they started rebuilding, not based on fantasy, but on mutual effort and emotional maturity. They didn't fall back into the relationship they had. They created a new one, built on Stoic foundations. Let's recap. Control what you can: yourself, your tone, your presence. Practice empathy. Listen, ask questions, and assume good intent. Stay composed, especially when it's hardest, because that's when it matters most. Stoicism isn't just about surviving life, it's about living wisely. And love, when guided by wisdom, becomes something deeper than passion. It becomes peace, growth, partnership. So if you're struggling in your relationship, don't just ask, "What's wrong with them?" Ask, "What's within my control?" That's where change begins. If something in this video made you pause, hold on to that. Maybe it was a reminder, maybe it was a challenge. Either way, don't let it pass you by. Take a moment and ask yourself, where can I respond with more calm? Where can I lead with more understanding? If you're comfortable, share one insight or shift you're committing to in the comments. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And remember, strong relationships aren't built by chance. They're built by choice, daily, intentionally, stoically.